Never. I will never sell my gold. Nah, I would sell my gold, but it would take a very certain circumstance to do so. But many people in this community will tell you never. At least the die-hard gold bugs, which is much of our community. And actually, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Not wanting to ever sell your gold. I don't ever want to sell my gold, but I'll explain more on this shortly. And look, I'm not necessarily a gold bug, so to speak. I have a lot of gold, but I also have a lot of other type of assets, including a whole lot of crypto, which I know a lot of you do not like. So I guess you can say my take on this is a little different than your average person who holds a lot of gold. Now, before we get into things, let's see what our favorite president thinks about this.
If it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, we're going to get a lot done.
Okay, let's just talk about the charts. Now, just a few months ago, gold was at its all-time high of around $2,000 or so, a little above that. But over the last few months, it's skyrocketed up. It's going up like 20%, and it's hit all-time high after all-time high over the last few months, going just above 2,400. Considering this as an investor, this wouldn't necessarily be a bad time to sell from an investing standpoint or percentage return on investment. I mean, a 20% run up over a few months, that's a good return. Pretty much anyone who's selling right now is making some good profits unless you just bought in the last couple months or so. Personally, I'm not selling simply because I don't have to. I didn't buy my gold to get a 20% gain back. I bought it for savings, right? To have a safe haven investment, to fight against inflation and to fight against any type of major economic collapse or, the collapse of the fiat currency that we hold today. So I think the smart thing to do is just kind of zoom out, right? And really think about, why are you selling? Like, what are you trying to sell it for? Do you need cash right now? And what exactly do you need that cash for? I mean, let's say you're selling to finance your weird hobby of collecting unicorn onesies. Maybe it's time to rethink your budgeting strategy and your fashion sense. Or are you selling because it's really an emergency and you need the cash? Probably a much more rational liquidation. Just because we ran up like 20% over the last few months doesn't mean it's going to stop here. Doesn't mean it's not going to keep going up. And actually, I think most signs are pointing to it going up. So just think about it. If you sell your gold now, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to buy at the same prices later on or cheaper. And really, it's a slim chance that you're going to buy cheaper later on, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, maybe if something unexpected happens with the rate cuts or cooldowns in the wars, but personally, I just don't see either of those things happening. So don't expect to be able to buy gold much lower than the prices are right now for in the foreseeable future or possibly ever. Even if you look at like worst case scenario, peace in the Middle East and Feds raise rates, whatever the case, we might go back to like $2,000 an ounce, maybe, but I don't really see that happening. And even if it does, I think we would quickly move up from there anyways. I think it would bounce right off that support level. I think that $2,000 support level would be extremely strong, just the psychological factor, and I think it would bounce right off there. And even if that case happened, it would mean most of us were still up anyways. Outside of that, no one really knows what the hell is going to happen. It's almost impossible to time the market correctly. So, it could go up, it could go down, or it could range sideways for a while. I think data and circumstances point more towards either sideways or for a little bit and then up, or up from here, but that's what I'm going off my data. Now, if we go back to my situation, typically I won't sell gold. I have sold gold before, but it's been quite a while since I've done so, like over 10 years. Nowadays, I look at gold differently. It's more my long-term asset, right? It's more of my safe haven. I would only sell if I absolutely needed the money for it. And there's just a lot of other assets I would sell before my gold. For example, I have a ton of crypto, which is a much newer and more volatile asset. If I was in need of cash, my crypto would go way before my gold. Because, of course, the crypto has the high risk. It's newer. It's not as proven. So that's going first to get me the cash I need, while the gold stays as my safe haven asset. It's been proven through time. That's what it's there for. It's my safe haven. I would be getting rid of my riskier assets and then holding my long-term assets as long as possible, which, of course, is gold. I personally like the saying for gold, buy when you can, sell when you need. Of course, that means when you can afford to buy it, only sell it when you have to sell it for something like an emergency. Because when you think about it, Gold and silver, they're really your last line of defense. And when it comes down to it, in most circumstances, you're not going to want to sell your gold. It doesn't make much sense to sell your gold unless you absolutely have to. We all understand what's happening throughout the world today and what's happening with the fiat currency situation at hand. That's why many of us got into gold and silver. We all know it's not going to get better unless Joe has a plan. Hey, Joe, got a plan to fix this mess?
I looked at it anyway. That's what I think my plan. I know what my plan does.
Sounds promising. And this is probably one of the largest reasons each of us own gold and silver. If you're buying gold and silver to flip for profits, I think you're in the wrong asset. That's just not really the purpose of gold and silver. At least not to me or most of the people I know. And again, in my opinion, you should only be selling if you absolutely have to. Or maybe you just have so much and need to balance out your portfolio. Maybe that's a good reason to do it. Otherwise, don't forget why you bought it in the first place. And a lot of people who sell their gold forget that reason, right? They forget why they bought it in the first place, and they end up selling to buy something that's meaningless, right? Like the unicorn onesie or video games or whatever it is. And then they waste the money and then they have no savings. They have no real savings. But give me your thoughts. Place a comment below. Would you ever sell? What would it take for you to sell? Leave a comment, subscribe. Talk to you soon.